So I went to Blizzcon this year. It was a great time. I had a meet and greet before Blizzcon, spent 2 days watching panels and playing demos inside of Blizzcon, and even went to Disneyland the day after. And on all 4 of those days, my favorite part of Blizzcon was the plane ride home, because I don't really like leaving my house. I think that says more about me than the actual convention itself, because it was a lot of fun. I had a great time. I'm just kind of an antisocial animal, I think. So, did you hear they announced a new expansion at BlizzCon? Something to do with Sylvanas fighting Bolvar. It was pretty neat. As you can see from the reactions of the crowd, everyone loved it. I remember I got on my phone after that, I checked Twitter, Reddit, the YouTube comments of it. Everybody in the room loved the cinematic. And then, if you were going based on what was written in text, everyone hated it. There was so much people complaining about how terrible it was and how, more Sylvanas stuff. So it was really nice. That's one of the cool things about BlizzCon is people go out of their way to make it to BlizzCon, and these are all people who are just very happy to be there and meeting other people. They go there usually to meet other guildmates, friends they've known for years. It's just a really good place to meet up. Really good place to just be excited about video games. And it's such a stark contrast. It's so hard to really explain this in a video. You just kind of have to be there to really get it. But it's so positive. It was so refreshing. I loved it. It makes you think, wow, people who play video games can actually be pretty nice. Because there was so much positive energy in the room. Even though I know that sounds like a buzzword, it definitely is, but that's one of the best ways to explain it. You would definitely not get that impression if you read what they were talking about with all of the announcements and stuff online. So, in this video, I'm not really going to talk about the entire trip I had there. Blizzard, they gave me a media pass, so I was able to take in a camera to take pictures of stuff. I even got to go into the media room to play a demo of Shadowlands. I didn't get any footage in there. They were very strict about what you were allowed to take pictures of, and I had to kind of argue my way in there. You see, they gave me a media pass, but the wristband they gave me didn't work. So, luckily, very nice. Friend of the channel, Hazelnutty Games, she was nearby. She was able to vouch that, yes, I was indeed a YouTuber who was supposed to be in the area. So they reluctantly let me in so that I could play games. So yeah, that was neat, I guess. So let's talk about what was announced at BlizzCon. Did you know there was a new expansion? New expansion announced, Shadowlands. With the expansion reveal, we finally get to see what Sylvanas has been working on for the past 2 expansions. One of the biggest complaints about WoW's lore, from people who actually know what they're talking about, is that we don't know what Sylvanas has been doing this entire time. She has just been playing 4D chess, my machinations have come together, mustache twirling supervillain who's planning something. But we never knew what it was, and that was kind of the annoying thing about her character. To finally get a reveal was pretty great because it actually made a lot of sense when we finally found out what she's been doing this entire time. And what she's been doing this entire time is a mystery. It's still 4D chess. We still don't actually know what Sylvanas' actual goal is, but it seems as if part of her goals were to get a whole bunch of power, to make a deal with this mysterious jailer guy, and to open up a portal to the Shadowlands with the Helm of Domination, which has been soft retconned. For those of you who don't know, this was explained in one of the interviews. Frostmourne and the Helm of Domination, those 2 things were just kind of randomly created by the Legion in Warcraft 3. The Lich King himself, he was kind of an appetizer. He was supposed to prepare the world for a Legion invasion. So they used Ner'zhul basically just to mess with him, because Kil'jaeden didn't like him. And then Ner'zhul found his champion of Arthas, and it was because he found such a capable person to wear all the stuff for him. You know, that's why the Helm of Domination, and to an extent Frostmourne, was so effective in Arthas' hands. And they never really said where they got Frostmourne or the Helm of Domination. And it was never really important either. The Legion just kind of had it. And they just kind of used it. And the Lich King himself was always supposed to just be, you know, a preparation thing. It was never the end goal. The whole Lich King was created by the Legion as kind of a side project. So what Blizzard did was they basically just retroactively gave the Helm of Domination a backstory. That's all it was, because it didn't really have one before, and this is why it's called more of a soft retcon, because it never really had anything there before. It was always just a random piece of equipment they had. So they just made it more important retroactively, and they also just kind of made it fit into what's been said about it since then. Since, you know, they added the whole there must always be a Lich King thing at the end of Wrath of the Lich King, when that was never actually a thing before Wrath of the Lich King. So now the Helm of Domination and to an extent Frostmourne were artifacts from the Shadowlands. And the Shadowlands themselves, that's like the afterlife for the entire universe and not just Azeroth, which is pretty neat. Can't wait to see, you know, how they deal with that in all-in-one expansion, because that's a pretty big thing. That's like a gigantic reveal. Not even the Titans themselves know much about it. I'd assume they do. Like, one of the Titans can look through time and everything, so I'd assume they'd be able to look into the future to see something where this happened. I can't imagine they didn't know about it. More like they probably didn't care. You know, they're omnipotent demigods. This probably didn't concern them very much, since they probably don't really have to worry about death too much. They were killed by Sargeras, but then they were brought back to life, basically, during Legion. Which kind of makes sense. I mean, Cenarius, you know, a lot of the wild gods on Azeroth, they've been killed too, and most of them got brought back to life in Cataclysm through a questing zone. The precedent is there. Anyways, enough about rambling on about lore and stuff. Let's get into what was actually talked about, you know, gameplay-wise. So, the Shadowlands themselves will have a level squish. Lots of confusion on this. Basically, Blizzard said they're gonna have like mathematical formulas to determine what your new level will be if you're not already at max level. So you can go ahead and keep leveling now, and you'll be at an appropriate level when the level squish comes through. This is probably gonna completely destroy twink characters though, so best to just hold off on those until the expansion comes out. Although I've heard the twink community is basically dead anyway, so I doubt that's a huge concern. They're also allowing you to pick which zone you want to level in from 10 to 50. Now, what's great about this is that usually I'd see people post things like comments or things online, new players who want to play through the expansions like in chronological order, and that's never really been available. Because I've heard in other MMOs, that's absolutely something you can do. You can like start off at level 1 and play chronologically through the story all the way till end level. Except in, you know, World of Warcraft, how it is currently, you level up in Cataclysm, and then you go back in time to the Burning Crusade, you know, for like the level 60 stuff. You know, and then it goes chronologically to Wrath of the Lich King, and then you go back to the present time of Cataclysm, and then you go to Mists of Pandaria. I mean, I guess it's chronological after that. It's just like at the early levels where it was kind of weird. You didn't really level chronologically. You kind of went back in time for 20 levels or so before you caught up again. And that was kind of a little bit confusing, but they kind of did that to themselves with the whole Cataclysm revamp without having a way to actually experience the old zones. Now that there's Classic, you can see the old zones, but they're not even going to try to just do a chronological thing. Instead, you can just pick whichever zone you want to level in, and then Chromie will be like, here's how the expansion played back in its time. And that actually like fixes so many problems with it that it's kind of ingenious how simple of a fix it is and how much it makes sense. And then they're going to have a new class progression system, which is going to be tied to your order hall. or, covenant, as they said. There's not too much information on this. I've been asked a lot, like, which covenant I think I'm going to choose. The one I'm going to choose is the one that's, like, has the best abilities for my disc priests. I've never really been an aesthetic kind of guy. If I ever, like, took a picture of my room, you'd see that I literally have, like, nothing hanging up. I don't collect knickknacks or anything. I have the default Windows logo on the background of my computer, and I don't really care too much about my transmog. So picking a covenant based on aesthetics is something I don't really care about. I'm gonna go which one has either like the most fun abilities, or the one that's gonna be mathematically determined to be the best for, like the best version of healing. Luckily, healing's a little bit more fluid than DPS, so I'll probably have more choice than you regular DPS players who have to go with whatever the hell they've determined is the best one for you. So I'm gonna have fun choosing, which one has fun abilities. I'm not too sure about the DPS players though. But again, we don't actually have any details on the specifics of it yet, and the expansion's like a year off. But a lot of the things about it seem neat. They're gonna have like little customization talent you can get out in the open world, similar to Nazjatar bodyguards, without the bodyguards though. It's kind of like, what if you're leveling up your Nazjatar bodyguard, but you gain those abilities instead of your bodyguard? That's a neat system. You also get to mount some customizable, transmog stuff. I don't care too much about those things, but I understand those are very popular things. So I'm sure lots of people are very hyped about that. Here's another big one. Blizzard will be unpruning a lot of abilities, which means a lot of the videos I made that talk about, hey, here's all these abilities that Blizzard has removed from the game, those are no longer going to be valid. They're going to be more like historical things, which means I can remake them and be like, here's a whole bunch of abilities that Blizzard are returning to the game that you should be excited for. And that is actually a really good idea. I'm going to write that down. It's probably going to be a video. Okay, now let's go on to my favorite part of everything. So there's going to be a new max level zone where the jailer will try to kill you the more stuff you do on there. Hopefully the rewards are worth actually going in there and messing around with that stuff. But the thing I'm most excited about is the solo progression system, Torghast, Tower of the Damned, which is located right in the center of that max level zone. Now, the system itself sounds very similar to the Visions of N'Zoth scenarios that I should really try out on the PTR, because this sounds great. Basically, you go in there and you can just keep doing it for as long as you want in order to progress your legendary, I think. And the place itself is roguelite, so the place randomly generates rooms and mobs. They did say they were going to design the rooms manually, but it would like randomly assign them together, which is a good way to do it. Like, randomly designed dungeons, just like pure random, are rarely good. There needs to be like kind of a balance between it for a roguelike to actually be fun to play. Because if it's too random, you usually just get a whole bunch of really bad rooms, or like badly placed mobs and stuff. But if it's like random within a degree, it'll choose like, I don't know, maybe they have like 50 presets, and then it will like combine 2 of those presets together in a pre-approved way. That way it's very unlikely you'll come across it multiple times, but it is still set out so that it's, reasonable and not ridiculous. And if it's anything like the Mage Tower, then that's going to be great, because Mage Tower was like one of my favorite additions they made to the game. Kind of sad they didn't continue it with BFA, but then again, Visions of N'Zoth, or whatever those are called, those are still going to be added to BFA. Like, BFA is not over yet. So maybe that will be something I enjoy very much, because I love solo progression systems. Here's the thing about me. I love to play the game as kind of like a single player experience. I know it's an MMO. I know the whole point of it is to play with other people, sense of community and all that stuff. That has never appealed to me in the slightest. It's great for the people who like that kind of stuff. I do have a guild, I do play with people occasionally, but I prefer to do everything on my own. So the Torghast Tower was super exciting to hear about. It'll probably be easier to do if you do it with other players, since it is 1 to 5 players, but I'm definitely going to be doing that alone 99% of the time. Alright, and besides that, there was a couple of other things, dungeons, new zones, alt-friendly stuff. I'm sure you've heard about all this stuff before. Those are all the major things about this new expansion thing. I'm definitely going to be making, well, tentatively, I'm going to be writing a script about Sylvanas. There's no definite about that, there's plenty of scripts that I've written that I've just abandoned because it didn't work out. This might be one of them, but I'd really like to compile everything Sylvanas has done together in a video so that people can understand, why is she so powerful in that cutscene? Why is she so powerful in that cinematic? They have been alluding to it, not even subtly, just blatantly. They've been showing her rising in power over time. So it makes sense if you know Sylvanas' lore as much as I do. Most people don't. The average WoW player barely reads quest texts, so I'll have to make a video about that. Or not, unless the video comes out bad and I abandon it. This is why I don't like to promise videos. And now for some miscellaneous things about the whole BlizzCon trip and everything. They announced Diablo 4, which I'm super excited about. Fun little fact, probably shouldn't be saying this on my World of Warcraft channel, but I actually like Diablo 3 more than WoW. It's like one of my favorite games of all time. So, a Diablo 4, I played at the demo on the showroom floor and everything. It's basically an updated version of Diablo 3, so that's probably the thing I'm most excited for. And also, the most fun I had at BlizzCon was when I went to the Heroes of the Storm section and queued up as the Lost Vikings in a 5v5 thing. And I just used all 3 of the Vikings in order to soak experience the whole game. Gave our team a 4-level advantage and we just completely dominated. That was fun. We were playing against real other people, and when we destroyed their last fort, the sound of them banging their hands on the desk and, dissatisfaction, that was a lot of fun. And I have to show off this little thing. You see, Blizzard has this thing at BlizzCon. It's like a loot box, a real physical loot box. They sell them. It's like a box full of Blizzard merch. It costs $50 per box, and they only let you buy 5 at a time. So there was just a ton of people in line for these things, and multiple people will buy all 5 of them and then get back in line. This is more of an indication of the kind of people who go to BlizzCon. You're going there because you have money to spend. And so I didn't buy any last year because it seemed like a waste of money. But I decided to get some this year just because they have loot codes in them for the TCG stuff that you can get in WoW. So you can get the Spectral Tiger or some really rare pets and mounts in World of Warcraft. So I went for that, and here's me opening the loot box in my hotel. Well, one of them anyway. I got basically the same thing in both of them. I got pretty unlucky, I guess. So for a real life loot box, it has a gold Sylvanas figure, a Overwatch random bag, the loot code, obviously, an Overwatch plushie. I got the same one twice. And an adult coloring book, a cosplay book. I don't really need any of these. I basically just gave them all away as souvenirs when I got home. I can see why people bought them, though. It is fun to try to get a TCG loot code thing, because those are kind of hard to get. So, if you're really into gambling and you love Blizzard merch, this is probably for you. Otherwise, I'd say don't waste your money and just, buy specific things. So, final thoughts on the BlizzCon trip itself. It was a lot of fun. I met a lot of people, lots of YouTubers, lots of fans. Some of them I even took pictures with. Luckily, none of them posted pictures of me online. So that was great. I got to keep my identity hidden for another year. I should probably mention, the protesters. That's a pretty hot topic with BlizzCon. There was 5 of them in front of the convention when I went there, and they were really nice. They were just handing out free t-shirts and stuff. And I think I saw 2 people wearing Winnie the Pooh costumes inside the convention, who were also nice people. It wasn't a big deal. I also talked to Taliesin before the Q&A, and, he basically asked Blizzard what he should do in case someone tried to disrupt it. And they basically told him just let it happen. They didn't care. There is tons of security. Like, you don't really see it in the stream and anything, but, you know, if they wanted to stop people, they easily could have, but they didn't. They just let it happen. I think that handled it pretty well. And so, would I go to BlizzCon again? I don't really want to. I don't like leaving my house, but it's kind of like a case of, I had fun. It was a good time, like, legitimately. You know, I'm not sugarcoating it or anything just because Blizzard gave me a pass. Like, I had already bought 2 BlizzCon tickets before I found out they gave me the media pass. And that was mainly because I just read my email wrong. So I had prepared to go there on my own dime, you know, before they gave me the free ticket. And there's definitely a lot to do there and a lot of people to meet, and it's a very positive atmosphere. But also, you can get all the announcements at home, and the demos themselves don't really show very much. I kind of like being at home more. That's because I'm more of a hermit than a person who likes to go out and socialize. So I don't have any plans on going again next year, but I didn't really have any plans on going this year either, after last year's. So who knows? Hopefully you enjoyed this rambly video. Don't expect too many like these. I generally only make like highly scripted, highly edited videos on this channel, so these ones are pretty rare. I usually do these kinds of stuff on one of my alternate channels.